Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Fear the Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 8, and this was the mid-season finale. And obviously, you guys should know how I structure my mid-season finale reviews. Pretty much how this works is um, I will talk about the episode and give my thoughts on it, and if I like, and say whether or not I liked it or not. And then I'll give my thoughts on what I think of the season so far, and if I think it's good, bad, or indifferent. Um, so that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing. And this episode came out the same day. Well, this episode is called Children of Wrath, which I thought kind of fit the title of the theme of this episode, I should have said. And this episode came out on July 9th, 2017. Now, this episode had two storylines. One of them really wasn't as important, so I'll just kind of touch on that real quick. Pretty much what happens is we see Strand, and he's walking around Mexico, and what does he find? He finds Abigail just floating out into the water, and I thought that was kind of a cool scene for them to bring back Abigail. Um, and he goes on it, and there's a couple of infected on there, so he takes a harpoon and shoots one of them, and then he kills the others, and he shoots him with a pistol, and um, then he ends up drinking some champagne, and then afterwards he talks to a Russian um, an alleged Russian cosmonaut. I don't know how to say that word. I'm just reading it on here but he talks to somebody on his CBS radio that Alicia used to talk to the person, someone in the last season, and Strand's kind of worried, thinking that life is all over, and this person tells Strand that life isn't over, that there's still reasons to continue because pretty much Abigail's destroyed, and Strand ends up burning Abigail to the ground, and he leaves with a pack of weapons and supplies. I thought this was actually pretty badass. It really didn't. I don't know why they included this in the episode though, because um, while I didn't hate this stuff, it just kind of felt like it was just kind of filler scenes that were just kind of there to kind of keep the show going. So um, it probably wouldn't have been bad in a different episode, and it wasn't that it was bad, but I think it just kind of felt out of place from um, what the storyline was represented in this episode. Um, and I don't really know what's going on with Strand too, because um, what his storyline is in this season so far. Um, so that's just really. I mean, I get it, but it's kind of like at least Daniel has a storyline because he's trying to find his daughter, and Strand just kind of seems like he's in this season, but he's just kind of there. He hasn't really had much of a purpose. Um, but let's get to what like this main storyline was about. The actual episode itself kicks off with Ophelia. It shows a flashback from season 2, episode 14, when she was trying to make trying to make her way back to the United States, and she was shot by that guy. Well, who did we find out that that guy was none other than Jeremiah Otto. Now we always had known this, anyways. I think everybody was supposed to have thought that they saw Jeremiah Otto. I'll just be honest, just because I got so many other things going on with my life, and it had been a while since I had sat down and watched season 3. Um, I didn't really. I remembered who he was, and I was even thinking when we had met him in season 3, episode 2, thinking that Jeremiah actually looked familiar. Um, because I was thinking, wasn't he the guy that shot um Ophelia? But then I was thinking, but then when I didn't see Ophelia actually at damn it, I forgot the name of the episode again. Um, crap. Broke Jaw Ranch. I think that's the name of it. I'm just gonna go with that. Um, I was thinking, there's no way it was the same guy. Well, but then we found out that it was the same guy. So what ended up happening? Because the reason I didn't remember is that scene it's not that it's not a memorable scene. That scene, there was so much has happened since that scene that I couldn't really remember it. But what ends up happening is he doesn't kill her, and what ends up happening is he gives her water, and um Ophelia tells him that he's going to Santa Fe to see her fiance, and um he she wants Jeremiah to give him a lift, and Jeremiah says that he has a community that he has to get back to, so she wants to stay at the community, and Jeremiah says, "I'd have you come here, but people of your kind can't be there." He calls them brown people. They would think it's odd because it's a white man territory, and Ophelia gets offended about this, so she spits on his shoes, and he ends up driving away. So he pretty much just left Ophelia out there to die, pretty much, and that's kind of what almost happened. She walks along the desert or mountain, whatever you want to call it, and as on the verge of dying. She wants to take her clothes off because she's just starting to go crazy at this point. She digs at the sand to try to find water, and she starts hallucinating her father, and her father tells Ophelia to try to continue fighting, but she just ends up passing out. And who goes by her? None other than Walker. And Walker takes her up and pretty much saves Ophelia's life. I like this just because this kind of gave um, a backstory about why Ophelia wants to take down Broke Joe Ranch. So I like this a lot. I thought it actually made a ton of sense, and I like that they showed this. So I really like this. And you could say, well, why didn't they just show this in the last episode? I think it means more now because now we're thinking, well, now we know why Ophelia did all that stuff to, um, you know, the Broke Jaw Ranch community. So I like this. And then it cuts back to the present, and Madison is still chasing after Ophelia, and Ophelia is trying to get away. And she goes to get in a car and get into a truck and leave, I should say. And Madison ends up catching up to her, pulls her out of the truck, and beats the crap out of her, and continuously asks Ophelia what she did. And then it shows the logo, and then it shows the actual episode itself, and we find out that, obviously, Ophelia poisoned um, the militia's coffee, so every member of the militia is pretty much sick, pretty much, and they don't know what's in it, so they can't really give them any antibiotics. So, um, what ends up happening is Madison takes Ophelia hostage and goes to goes to Black Hat, which is the name of their community, um, and holds Ophelia gunpoint and forces Walker to tell her what kind of poison they put Ophelia put in the coffee. And I did like the scene when Madison and Ophelia were in the truck, and Madison was talking, um, you know, Madison was and Madison was talking about how, um, Ophelia treated her like family, and she just went and stabbed him in the back and nearly tried to kill her son. I like that a lot. But eventually, though, cutting back to real time, Walker says that there's, and I have it right here because I knew I was going to forget this, anthrax. Anthrax. No, anthrax. I don't know. It's Anthrax. Anthrax, which is a poison that has no cure. Um, so we were supposed to have thought that um, that Nick was gonna die, and it was set it in on Alicia, not Alicia, sorry, on Madison, and Walker. You can kind of see he's got some humanity in him. He um, he actually likes Madison because he thinks that she has like a backbone, and he actually tries to warn her to leave Broke Ranch community because you're not gonna like what happens. It wasn't really much of a threat. He was actually genuinely telling her to leave, and Madison says that we fought too hard to get what we came for. So when Madison goes back to the community, she reveals that there's no cure, and the people that survive it won't be able to hold up a gun. So what ends up happening is Jake wants Troy to go get as many men as they possibly can to prepare for an attack, and Troy, Alicia, and Jake get into a conversation, talking about how they could exchange something, but it's too late. They're already in war and they have no leverage. But then Alicia says, "I know how we can get some leverage." So what ends up happening is everybody, all the militias people, attack the Black Hat, and they steal their ancient skeletons that what's his name, that Walker showed Elisa in the last episode, which I thought made sense because they those was something that they were going to care about. So what ends up happening is um when Madison comes back, Walker the Blackhead community shows up, and Madison offers to give back their stuff if they end this war. But no, actually, that's not what happens next. Actually, um, I jumped ahead. What ends up happening is Nick wants to get free because he's handcuffed to his bed and he wants to get free. Um, and Jake lets him get free because we find out that he's actually sick too, but he's trying to play it off like he's not. And what ends up happening is um, in episode 6, Jeremiah shot at the floors at Nick. Well, there was a reason for that. What ends up happening is Nick takes the hammer and he takes the back end of it and pulls up the boards and digs out, and we find out that um, there was an Indian skeleton buried under there, and we find out that Jeremiah is actually the bad guy in this situation. Jeremiah reveals that this is his land and he bought this land from um, the Indians, because so they could go spend it on drunk money. And he says that all the young Indians, which they call the nation, pretty much. Um, he says that they have been trying to take his land for a month, years, and eventually him and the other founders of the Broke Ranch community went and murdered them, and um, murdered Walker's uncle. And we're supposed to think that that skeleton was his uncle, but then he said, no, that son of a bitch is his father. And we find out that he actually ended up killing his father. So when Madison tried to present this over, Walker doesn't want it, and he says he's that he either they leave or they're going to attack the place. And what ends up happening is Madison, Nick, and Alicia know about this. Nick tells Madison and Alicia that they're pretty much not on the right side, which I kind of thought was a nice twist, that Madison, Alicia, and Nick are the good guys, but they were unknowingly fighting with the bad guys. And I was actually even thinking that too, like, the nation, they don't really. Walker doesn't seem like a bad person. He actually was acting genuine towards Alicia, because he could have killed Alicia in the last episode and he didn't. And also too, we he was actually being genuine towards Madison. So I was kind of thinking, um, are they really the bad guys in this situation? Well, then what ends up happening is when Madison finds out about this, and then Alicia finds out that, Nick lets it slip that Alicia finds out that Troy actually didn't. So I'm sorry, that Walker actually didn't kill Gretchen and her family. It was actually, um, you know, Troy. So Alicia gets pissed about this, that Madison's been telling these lies and saying that she's no better and actually worse than Jeremiah. And she talks about how Madison is a cold, hopeless woman, and that's why her father, Alicia's father, was so depressed all the time. And then Madison goes off on her, saying that um, I have to worry about making life decisions that's going to keep everybody alive. I don't have time to show my emotions, which I liked. And obviously, too, then it leads to the scene when Madison handing that over and stuff like that. So what ends up happening is they're about to leave, and then Madison tells the story um, of when she was young, but she doesn't say it's her. She says it's just a little girl, and they never went to Alabama. And since her father was such an alcoholic and stuff, and they she was sick of her mother's having to deal with her problems constantly, she pretty much killed her father. She took a gun and shot him, which was um a nice yeah, which was a nice scene to kind of look at. And he says that she said that she and Nick and Alicia were shocked, and Madison says that I would do it again if I had to protect her, and I would do it for you guys if I had to protect you. And I kind of like this because this made Madison kind of look like a badass and kind of make her look like the family woman that would do whatever it takes to wanna help her family. So what she ends up doing is she wants to go to Jeremiah to try to get him to um, settle to end the war. But there's more to it than that. You would have thought that Madison was just going to have him go and bury the hatchet, but that wasn't the case. What ended up happening, and I forgot to mention Jeremiah when him and Nick were talking had this great scene where Jeremiah said that if you can't keep hold of the land, then get off my land, because Nick was trying to tell him that this actually was their land. So Madison wants Jeremiah to kill himself to prevent this community from having to take any more damage from the from the Indians and having any deaths happen and his kids. But he just hasn't having any of it. He just wants Madison to do it, but Madison doesn't want to do it because she doesn't want to disappoint her kids. So what ends up happening is Nick and Jeremiah says, "I'm not doing this because um, you know the, Jeremiah continuously tells Madison that you shouldn't do it because I gave you a home and fed you." And Nick walks in and he's about to say what Madison was about to do, and then Nick shoots um, Jeremiah. And what ends up happening is Jake and Troy come in, and I guess they're gonna play it off like Jeremiah shot himself because it doesn't seem like that um, they're making it. Yeah, they're making it. That they're making it seem like they thought he killed himself. So they staged a suicide pretty much. And what ends up happening is they take Jeremiah and bury him. So pretty much we know that one of the Otto brothers are gonna run the Broke Jaw branch, and the ending scene pretty much is Madison going into the bone and taking out Jeremiah's head and giving it to Walker, and that's how the episode ends. I thought that was um, a great ending, and this was a great episode. Actually, it was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed the um, character development of Madison, and I really enjoyed the twist ending of having Jeremiah actually be the bad guy and the nation actually being the good guy. Um, I really enjoyed the family confrontation that the Clarks had with each other as well, and obviously I enjoyed. I mean I didn't. I actually did enjoy seeing Strand burn down his boat too. I thought that was a really well done scene. So if I had to rate this episode, I'm giving it a I can't give it. I can't quite give it an A+ because it's not a perfect episode. Um, but I gotta give it um an A-. Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A-. I thought this episode. Actually, no, I'll give it just a flat out A. I thought this episode was fantastic. I think it. I don't know if it would be one of the best episodes of the season. I would have to probably do a video about that. But and plus, too, I haven't seen the rest of the episodes. But I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was fantastic. And people tend to agree with me. The critics, I didn't say how the critics thought of the last one just because one I forgot to, but I think it makes sense just because um, both episodes intertwined with each other since they aired on the same day, and they had the review on the same. They just reviewed both of them, so um, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 7.5 out of 10, and Matt Flower of IGN gave it an 8.6, and um, pretty much everybody on DB gave it high ratings. There's always that one person that gives it like a 1 out of 10, so I don't really get why that happens. I think it's the same person every time. I just think there's nothing the show can do for him, so whatever. So pretty much everyone agrees with me and thinks this is either a good or a fantastic episode. I think it's fantastic. And as for this season's been fantastic so far. I'm not gonna lie. Every episode's like a much watched so far. Um, and you could definitely see that this episode is much more improvement than um the season 2 was, because I don't know what the hell happened. Um, season 2 was still okay. It was still, but um, this season's definitely been upgraded. You know, with these past 8 episodes. I don't know if it's because it got more popular or what, but it's been fantastic. I think. Um, if you had to ask me too, this was around the same time The Walking Dead, like the actual show itself, um, the processor as they called it, started to lose steam. And if you had to ask me what I would prefer watching, this or um, the first half of season 7 of The Walking Dead, I easily would have said this. This was much more enjoyable. The first half of The Walking Dead, I don't know what the hell happened. The first episode was like fantastic, and then the rest, except the last two, were like skippable episodes to shitty episodes. So, um, this is like easily blowing The Walking Dead out of the water. I think this is actually a better alternative at the moment. Um, I think the season's been fantastic so far. Every episode I think has just been a much watch. I feel like you can't miss an episode. If you miss one episode, you're screwed. I should say, if you skip one episode, you're screwed. Because that was the problem with the last season. There was a lot of episodes that you largely could have just skipped or skimmed over. This episode, you have to watch the entire thing. I really enjoyed the first episode. Um, when they were taken to that camp and they did the studies um, on the infected. Travis's death was awesome. Um, what else was awesome in this? And then obviously them coming into the Broke Jaw Ranch community. And while you had some episodes you could say that were a little bit slower, I liked the transition into the Broke Jaw Ranch community. I liked the characterization of the Otto brothers. And the Otto family. I even liked Daniel's return to the show and the episode that focused on him. You could probably skip that, but that's just such great stuff to watch. You have to check it out. I even enjoyed you know um Ophelia's return to the show. So I gotta say, this episode's fantastic. This season's been fantastic so far. I really hope that it stays this way and they don't drop the ball in the rest of the season, but we'll have to wait and see. Well, at least I'll have to wait and see. But that's pretty much the end of this review. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell. So that way every time I upload a video, you guys get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers YouTube channel. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.